New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert hiding out behind the placard here.
Reverend Z right here.
And Reverend Michael here. Good to see you all.
And I have got every wrong thing going here this morning. There it is. This is Ministers Talking Shit for Friday morning. Thanks for joining us, folks. Happens every week, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Rev Z and I, you never know what Rev Z and I are going to be talking about. And then it gets more fun when we join in with a special guest and bring in a special guest, Reverend Michael Benjamin, all the way over from Utah, joining us here today. And not a stranger to the program, not your first time go around here. So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into here. So good morning, Michael.
And good morning to you all. And thank you for having me back. And I appreciate the spontaneity. And, you know, there's a lot of hot things to talk about this week. And I'm sure we're going to kind of take our turns, huh?
Yes, there are some hot topics to talk about. Thoughts and prayers to everybody freezing their butts off on the East Coast of the United States. Let's start there.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty. They got that storm came through Oklahoma yesterday. There were some places in Oklahoma yesterday that got like 5 inches of snow. They got like a couple of inches down in Dallas, shut the whole city down. And now it's moving over to Georgia and the Carolinas and Virginia and North Carolina. They said up in like Charlotte, around the metro, between 1 inch and 5 or 6 inches in the Charlotte metro area from this little storm that's coming through. So,
that'll close that city down.
Yes.
Done for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then because it's so cold, it turned to ice.
It's going to get nasty. You know, when that happens in areas that aren't, ready for it. I just have to, say if they can do anything to turn that around, because I'm a skier and I've been skiing all winter in northern Utah, and we're struggling at 40-degree temperatures and rain and all kinds of great snow coming down, but it's not stacking up at 32, 33, 34 degrees. It's like, come on. It's like, when's the cold weather going to hit here type of thing,
Yeah. And if we can get a reverse of the Santa Ana winds to go help Los Angeles metro area and all of that with those fires, I mean, they've been burning for like 3-4 days, and some of them are still 0% contained. I mean, that's unheard of. So we want to send some prayers out to those guys, and dollars and support and whatever we can send to that area, because they're going to need it.
Big prayers. It's I for me, the last couple of days, obviously the fires have been catching the most news, catching the most attention, getting the most views. And we were chatting about this in the green room ahead of time, folks, right? Some people do anything to get a click and a like these days, even to the point of flying their drone in an obvious no-fly zone And the FAA, like, you get a drone that can go high enough to do what I'm about to share, you need a license for that kind of drone. They find any part of, and we had somebody fly a drone in the no-fly zone and damage a Canadian firefighting plane. They're known as the super soakers. There's only a handful of these on the planet. They could scoop up water out of the ocean and large amounts of it, which is what we need right now in fires like this. And somebody had to put their drone up anyway to try to get footage, to try to get some clicks or some likes. I mean, it's strange because this is as reality TV as it gets.
Yes.
Right. Wednesday night, I was making dinner, and we were kind of paying a little attention and making dinner, and it sounded, okay, and doing some prayer work, and okay. And I got done with dinner, cleaned up, went downstairs, and turned on, and that was just about the moment that the what was called the sunset fire in Hollywood, in Runyon Canyon, broke out. And as morbid as it sounds, it was captivating to see it from the air, from the ground. I pulled up Google Earth and was able to map out, okay, here's where, there's that ridge. Oh, here's these houses. And we got to pray that fire doesn't get over that little ridge. Right. And it's weirdly morbid. It's weirdly captivating. Now, gratefully in that one, we were able to watch that fire real time and actually watch it go from getting started to being out of control to the water tankers and the air and the rotary aircraft being able to douse most of the flames. But I don't know what we do. Do we stop live broadcasting these types of things? Does it do any good for people for 14 different YouTube channels all to be live simulcasting the same footage?
Well, I think there is some merit, if you will. If I'm in that area and I'm not watching TV and I'm on my phone and I get, I'm tied into somebody's channel and I get a notification, fire is approaching, get out. Okay, yeah. But if it's being done, I don't know, for entertainment purposes or clicks and likes, as you said, or just, just to say I did it, right? I mean, you use it for something else, something helpful. I don't know what that might be in that situation, but and I mean, everything is entertainment now. We've turned disaster into entertainment, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, it's it's sort of ill-gotten gains is what's coming up there for me. It's like this sort of free for all based on your popularity, your channel, and so on and so forth. The value of it is yet to be seen. I mean, I guess in one level I can see the good because so many of the news outlets are skewed. Like if I can only imagine that if we had turned on Fox during that conversation, we would have been hearing how this is Gavin's fault, right?
Oh God, yeah. Just read
And they've already said that.
The comment section in these videos is off.
Yeah. And so it's like, and so on one level, I watched that live with the sunset fire as well from the helicopter.
Right.
And I am remote right now, and I'm not at home with my family on my TV. I'm in the RV. Sorry, if you could see all that, working on the road here in St. George, Utah. But so at some level, being able to tap into the wireless, channels of things is part of the abundant nature of the universe, and I'm really awesomely grateful for it. But there's also this egoic thing that's going on where people continuously, are like, oh, well, if I can get this, then I can do that. If I can do this, and it's very evident. You can just totally see it. At least I can. I don't know if you all can. I'm pretty sure you can.
I don't understand why a channel named Money Control on YouTube is currently live broadcasting last night's news coverage.
There you go.
And I'm looking at this in real time. They're live right now. There's a channel live, right? I just pulled up live. I didn't even put in fire. I just put up live on my YouTube. And in the top splash, there's 4 out of 8 that are showing fire coverage. And in the next splash, there's another 3 out of 8 that are showing fire coverage. So 7 out of 16, almost 50% of what, with no search whatsoever, other than the live tab. So out of the top 16 live channels right now, 7 of them are showing rehashed news coverage of destruction. Unfortunately, also, well, we don't have that on video, but we do want to send our love to the families of the 10 that we are now confirmed to have made their transition in this fire, and officials are expecting that number to rise as the cleanup continues.
Wow. Yeah.
There.
Yeah, and you can imagine that number is only going to rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't go down, that's for sure. And there's definitely smoke, people, and a lot of elderly folks, and my heart's with them. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I grew up in Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks, actually specifically Oak Park, and that was our stomping ground. My whole up until I went to college in Utah at 18. So
right, yeah,
I do have friends there, and I've been in texting with guys I grew up with, and everybody's given me the thumbs up thus far. I have a few vacation short-term rentals available, and made some offers to people that might be in, but at this point, those that are close to me, at any rate, have not accepted the invitation. So
there's a balance between the staying informed and becoming entertained by these types of things, right? It is important to stay informed, to have an idea, to know, oh, I better call, so I need to check in with so and so, right? I need, that's a friend I haven't called in a while, and let's send a quick text. And I was texting the last couple of days to a number of different friends that are like, even a couple that I don't know where they are in Southern California, I just know they are, right? Like, hey, lost track of where you are exactly in the world, and trusting you're safe. That is super, super, super important. I want to see something different in the way, however, I'd like to see something different, less commercialization, less scooping the other guy, less getting the story out of our news, out of our media and our news, so that we can stay informed. But
well, in that regard, I just got a new phone. I had a deal I couldn't refuse. But as I go through setting it up, on every app that I go in and restart and reconnect, I'm saying, do not notify me. I will, because when you re-up these apps, they always say notify me. So eventually you get beeps all day from Facebook and Twitter and X and the news thing and the weather thing and this thing and that thing. And quite naturally, when that phone beeps, you're going to look at it. And if they have because they do the headings just right, and they put pictures sometimes that don't even correspond to the story. There's a pretty young lady next to, the fire. And like, okay, what does that got to do with the fire? But they know that'll grab your attention and you'll click. And so I'm turning off all those notifications. And I'll go back in at some point as I remember, I used to get this notification, and I'll turn that specific one and this specific one. But we have to stop feeding the monster, because of course they got the algorithms. They're checking it, they're knowing what you're doing, and then they're going to algorithm you based on what you're looking at. So I'm checking out on that. I'll go and look at what I want to look at. Don't send me no notifications, and I'm good.
Dopamine addiction is real. Yes.
I was just going to say, make sure that one notification that says New Thought Media Network's going live, you know, that one serves me well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest. I'm with Z, because I don't have. If my notifications told me every time this network went live, it'd be the same thing. It'd be all day long. No, enough, right? So anyone out there that gets notifications about us going live on any of these channels, I love you. I appreciate it, because it's right. We've gotten to that point where, it's
basically, you know, what's coming up for me as I'm hearing you guys say this: misery loves company, right? There's that old awareness, that old saying, and what tends to happen is, you know, there, like I've been working in houses with people since 1995. I've literally sat at probably no less than 10 or 15,000 kitchen tables. And, you know, as a mental science practitioner and ministerial school, and, you know, you don't take that hat off,
right.
Even though the conversation might be retirement investments. I still get to know all my clients or my friends.
Right.
And the vast majority of the people are really unhappy. And I'm going to say it's probably 70 to 80% of the people are lost, really. And that's just my own theory from my own table. But so when we talk about catastrophe somewhere else, it actually brings people to life. Like, people actually enjoy that.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but if we can't have that conversation, then we're not being real. Yeah. And there is a time to sit in the fire with somebody. There's a time to feel their pain, but there's also a time to see the goodness flowing. And there is a tremendous opportunity here in the long run, in the short term, medium term, long term. But today, there's people that are really in trauma there in California.
Yeah. And there's that saying that goes in line with what you just said. When something happens to somebody or somebody's complaining, there's 80% don't care and 20% glad it's you, because they don't want it to happen to them, right? And so, it becomes like this, I don't know, this little thing. I'll just leave it at that. To watch someone else, and not that you may not have compassion for someone that something bad happened to, but you're just glad it didn't happen to you, right? And now it's entertaining in a weird, as you said earlier, Robert, in a weird kind of way. And so now we have this dialogue with ourselves of, I'm sure in the back of the mind, it's like, is this right? Is this right for me to be delighting, if you will, may not be the right word, in someone else's misfortune? But we've turned everything in entertainment into drama and hijinks and all these other things that our mind, and we know as New Thought ministers that our mind has been conditioned. We've seeded a garden with thoughts and ideas that have grown, and we don't even know it. It's like weeds in the garden. If you don't pluck the weeds, they grow and you don't know it until they're too big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings up the idea, because, for a couple decades now, I've seen whenever there's a big sort of a flare up, an event, a hurricane, an earthquake, a fire, there's always a reason to turn around and look the other direction and see what's happening over there. There's that in politics and public, space, there's that old saying that says, don't let a good catastrophe go unwasted. You know, so the real question is what's being pushed through, or how many billions of dollars are going to be extracted out of this for some narrow focused channel. And
you bring up a great point there, Mike, because that once this is over, some of those clips of that fire are going to be used in commercials by television news programs or whatever, saying we cover it all, from the devastating fires of Los Angeles to the freezing cold in Dallas, and
yeah,
making it very sensational to grab your attention to stay tuned. I just got
yep.
a notice on my tablet saying, "Are you tracking the fires in LA?" I'm not even going to respond.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the stories I heard, that there is a couple of real-time fire tracking apps that are just seeing over the top type of participation and adoption and people signing up, and now they're going to forever be addicted to that notification of when the next fire, is it, right? We kind of get to a point where sometimes I think we are living in this constant state of not PTSD, but TSD. Right? The days of worrying about the STDs are done. Now we're living in the days of traumatic stress.
Yeah.
Constant traumatic stress. Is my house is it, and we feed it, and the media feeds it, and I think it was Z said, suffering loves company, right? And that was never more evident than and that was never more evident than yesterday's funeral for past President Jimmy Carter, I think. And I was railing earlier, folks, about the seating chart, and Z was reminding me, it's all protocol. It's all protocol. And that's my question. Like, as we're sitting here in this conversation, that's what keeps coming back to me is, why do we got to live according to some protocol? Like, why did we force Barack Obama to sit next to Donald Trump so they could make up and play nice, so he could pretend to laugh at Donald's jokes and not tell the man what he really thinks of him, so that Donald could be justified? Like, I get photo op. There was an empty seat next to him. He could have said, "Hey man, sorry," and moved over one and politely let him know what he thinks of him. Right?
Well, and the same
is Obama that big of a man that he could actually sit next to Trump and forgive him for attacking his birth? I don't know.
No. And I mean, it would be disingenuous to think that he's not troubled by all of the the actions and the words and the stones that have been thrown at him. It would be disingenuous to be like, oh, it doesn't bother me. No, it does. It
right.
Did. And
go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I lost my train of thought. You go ahead.
I'm sorry, but you just made me think about, I am literally, I'm trying to be a reformed news junkie, right? I'm in a support group right now, because previously, I mean, I love the news. I love to be on top of current events. So I would wake up. My old routine was I'd wake up in the morning, I'd cut on the Weather Channel, and I'd watch the weather all across the nation, right? So if I talk to a friend, I could say, "Oh, it's happening in your neighborhood, and then I'd go and surf between CBS, NBC, Fox, CNN, CSNBC, Morning Joe. I would just get snippets from different perspectives. And now I got a couple I record, and I watch it when I want to watch it. And if it's 2 days later, that's okay, because it would wind up taking me an hour and a half in the morning, sometimes 2 hours of I'm doing something else, but I'm still keyed in while I'm washing the dishes or cooking breakfast. And it's like, enough of that. Enough of being saturated with what somebody else thinks is important that I carry around for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're in that support group, because, we can lose thyself in a constant barrage when we are, living in the world of effect and the current events in that regard, right?
Yep.
And I know, and I've been there too myself, and I know how that feels. Yeah. And as Esther Hicks says, Abraham says, good feels good and bad feels bad. Yeah. And the astonishing power of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I share?
January is the dry month. I don't know exactly what they call it. No, for not drinking alcohol, right? We need to do that for dry January. We need to get a no media march or something. And see how that goes over.
You funny man. You're a funny man. Catch on.
No media march, yeah.
Could you see all the news channels? Non-media march fails miserably.
And do it right in the middle of March Madness for the basketball. I mean, just make it really grand, right?
There we go. Hey, you just said it, Z. For those that have the 27 minutes after the hour before Z makes his first sports reference, there you go. You win the pool today. I thought for sure we were going to hear about the Broncos before now, because if you don't know, folks, the Broncos did make the playoffs. I don't know that we're really allowed to cheer that win over Kansas City. They kind of gave us that one. Here you go. You can play our third stringers, and we brought a couple of guys in off the street to run back up for us, and but hey, we made the playoffs.
Yeah, well, and they got a tough first call, right? I mean, they're going to be in Buffalo, where it's going to be colder than a mosquito's tweeter, and going against Josh Allen, and they're going to have to get it busy.
Well, it's exciting times, to get back in. Being a Cowboys fan most of my life, we've been struggling for decades now. It's like,
yeah. See, this is the power of new thought. I'm telling you, I figured this out. So many people in the country hated the Dallas Cowboys for so long that they became the worst team in the league for a totally disproportionate amount of time. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, and I think, being first of all, I've denounced really being like a devoted fan. Like, I haven't watched a game in a long, long time, like probably years. But I am definitely in tune with the fact that Jerry Jones has the world's largest ego, and that he's absolutely operating from ego, and he absolutely has self-sabotaged that team. Like, it's literally the owner, and it's a billionaire's game that he's playing, and it's his team, and it's supposedly his passion, but he's made all the wrong moves.
Speaking of which, did you guys see Mark Cuban sold the Mavs? Mark Cuban sold he sold his majority stake in the Mavericks. Now, he owned 47%. He was the majority owner. He sold 37, I think it is, or something. He's retaining a portion of the team and is still going to be president of daily operations or something or other, or basketball. He's still involved, but he's turning over the reins. And in an interview, he said that the reason he's doing this is he doesn't want to set his kids up to think they have to live and walk in his shoes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. However, and I like Mark Cuban. At one time, I had some druthers about Mark, and I'm warming up to Mark. I mean, he takes some good stand. But I applaud that one. The challenge that I find when celebrities make that kind of statement, first of all, I don't care, right? Number two, unless you are really vindictive of your kids, you're going to leave them with enough money that they can make any kind of decisions and be in any kind of entrepreneurial business careers, pursuit that they want. So, yeah, okay, I get it. But what if maybe I wanted to be the owner of the Mavs as your son or your daughter?
I might like those shoes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you just jacked me up. I can't do that no more. So I got it and I get it, but I think we have become so addicted to other people's lives and what they're doing, sometimes in fascination about if we could do it, and we all do it. I fantasize about winning that $1 billion lottery, and I would do this, that, and the other. All right, and that could be healthy to keep my spirits up. But in the biggest scheme of things, there's nobody in LA County right now concerned with any of that. They could care less, right? Yeah. And so it has a place if we're going to be looking at social commentary, maybe. But if we're looking at creating a world that works for all, which is an admirable statement and an admirable pursuit, good for you. That's all I got to say. Let's go to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, are you guys aware that a month ago today, my son's car burned?
Yes.
Yeah. So my son, who's a quad, just going to share this really quick. My son, who's a quad, drives. He's an independent living quad, and he drives his own vehicle. Had a bunch of work done on it. Got it back from the repair shop. 6 days later, goes to work 7 a.m. in the morning. He works for the governor's office in Utah, and they were releasing the budget. So he's a budget analyst, and he over 5 state agencies. So he's on his way to work very early in the morning, and starts his car up, and it burst into flames. And his ramp wouldn't go, and flames were coming after him, and he thought he was going to die, and literally was feeling the heat from the flames. And all of a sudden, a passerby came walking around the side of the car, saw him screaming for help, lifted him out, set him on the curb, and his car burned, to the ground. And having said that, and having been through that, the trauma that we went through was real. The loss, the grief, all that, so real. But I have to tell you that the opportunity to replace the vehicle, quickly became our focus. Mm-hmm. Long story short, we were able to replace the vehicle through the generosity of so many people, GoFundMe's and all sorts. Even the governor tweeted it out, and then the local news, and so on and so forth. Well, at the end of the day, 3 weeks to the day, he picked up his brand new 2024 van, and he does have a mortgage. He does have a note, much like anybody else, like the $40,000 range, but the $106,000 vehicle, $56,000 of it was raised through, generosity, which brings me to the subject of what I know is going to happen in the fire-stricken area. This is, I don't want to move too fast through the people's grief, but I am going to say this is going to be the largest economic stimulus package in Southern California history.
Yeah.
And it is going to Home Depot, Lowe's, all the lumber suppliers, all the concrete guys, like demo, excavation, engineer firms, architecture firms. I mean, think about the trillions of dollars that are in dollars,
yeah.
And it's not billions, it's trillions. Shipping, trucking, receiving, like you got to quantify all that. And so in spite of the next administration, who has a hard on for the state of California, they've already kind of depicted that it's Governor Newsom's fault, which is totally ridiculous. Makes me want to kind of lose my shit and say, well, what about all the hurricane damage? So what does that mean? So is that, is that like heathen living in the South? It's just ridiculous. But, golly, if you're an engineer firm, if you're a, construction related organization in the state of California over the next few years, you're definitely going to have an opportunity to prosper through this. So.
Well, and that's interesting because they just released the employment numbers for December, and they were up to like 256,000 jobs were generated in December, which they saying is high, right? It's a good number. It'd be interesting to see what those numbers look like in January and February. And I haven't seen anything about regions where those jobs were placed or industries, but it would be interesting to see in the next couple of months how this affects that number. And because you're right. And that really points to, again, it's kind of a weird thing, but it shows the oneness of everything. One bad thing happened, and now there's some other things that are going to happen to compensate that. But that is that oneness taking care of itself in this balance. When something goes bad, all these other parts of the whole jump in. Some people will make money. Some people will be generous and donate like they did for your son.
Right.
Some people will sit back and complain. Well, he should, they should, we should. But when it works, it works. It's like the 12 step. It works if you work it. If we don't work it, we get chaos, which we get sometime. And hopefully we can use this and other events of recent to start saying, God, we got to work together.
Yeah. Do we go to a break at the bottom?
I just want to share this. Suspected arsonist was arrested near the Kenneth fire yesterday by a group of citizens. He was carrying a propane tank and a blowtorch. This gets better. Man claims he used incendiary device to, quote, smoke marijuana. And I say it that way because they misspelled marijuana in this headline. Sorry to the Independent. Maybe it's British spelling. Man claims he used incendiary device to smoke marijuana because he couldn't afford a lighter.
Nice.
I'm sorry. I get a little lost sometimes, but that to me is just like the silliest excuse I've ever heard for to be walking around in a fire zone with a
flamethrower.
With a flamethrower, a propane tank,
a propane tank, more importantly.
Right. A flamethrower, a blowtorch connected to a propane tank.
Yeah. It's just, well, good for those people, and you were talking about the oneness and the goodness, I would, again, we're so, like, we're literally still in the smoke. And so it's time to kind of just sit. I get that. But I do want to remind people, try not to label it as bad. It's like there's the ego has a need to label things as good and bad. And, insofar as my, wish for you is that you could actually see life unfolding and the evolution process, and just know that everything happens sort of by divine appointment.
Yeah.
And this particular rebuild, this systemic and, widespread rebuild all the way up Pacific Coast Highway, all the way through these canyons. Like, these houses are millions and tens of millions of dollars. To have the opportunity to rebuild those houses, like, I happen to live in northern Utah in a valley where a lot of these people have second homes, ski resort properties. A good number of these people do have second homes, and they're probably already in Big Bear Lake, or they're already at their second home. And
right.
And, they're just, going to process claims, catastrophic claims, work with FEMA, and next thing you know, it's going to be game on, and it'll happen like warp speed.
And you know, and you made an interesting thing now, because on the flip side of that teeter-totter, if you will, think about insurance rates and insurance coverage in California and nationwide, because the companies work everywhere. And to absorb some of that cost, rates are already high, right? On auto. I mean, you saw that thing, they had the auto. People just left their cars. I saw Teslas and BMWs and Mercedes just left in the middle, and they came through with a bulldozer to get to the fire to move that out of the way. And so once we can get beyond this idea of things being pitted against each other and this whole idea of separation, and understand that there's a, as we teach, there's a cause and effect. For every action, there's a reaction. And when we can get those in a relatively fluid, low energy space, we know things are going to happen, but we can manage. This is going to be a opportunity for us to really take a look at life, ourselves, the way we, and say, how do we make this better, even if it's just a little bit better.
Well, and that's to me, that's the nature of New Thought. That is the nature, that is the outpicturing of what we learn in this philosophy. Is no matter what it may look like outside, we have the ability to change the way we look at those experiences and those conditions, and therefore write a different history, or write a different future. And anyone, right? I just heard a story of someone that renting a house. Their landlord called them yesterday and said, "My house burned to the ground. I need you to move. I need my apartment back. I need my second home back. I need my income property back so that I can survive." And my friend could have very easily looked at that as the, "Oh my God, what the hell? How am I going to? You got to be kidding me. I can't, you can't, da 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 da." When they're steeped in this philosophy, and their first response was, "Wow, that's going to be a hardship, but let's figure out what we can do so that you have a roof over your head and I'm not left stuck in a predatory rental market." And we turn to that view, that perspective, and we turn to the solution rather than turning to the detriment, to the harm, to the pain and the suffering, and let's all just suffer together. LA will rebuild, yes, right? These neighborhoods will rebuild. These homes will, there will be new, modernized opportunities for housing and community. And, I got to believe that next time around, some of these cities, City of Palisade, will look at their building codes and what they allow as a city and what they will permit and such, and we can build more resilient communities, more connected communities. Right? Everybody that stays is going to have the story of, well, back in 25 when the fire came through, and everything from here forward is that new opportunity again. So if we know people there, we're going to support them, right? If we have organizations or friends there, we're going to donate money. If somebody needs a roof and we're going to go and we're going to help people put on this or do that or build that defensible space or all these different things. Like yesterday, watching the news towers almost burned on the top of Mount Wilson, right? They didn't because there was more than enough prior planning to create the defensible space that it didn't burn the towers. It burned all around it. It burned a circle all around the top of that mountain, but it didn't burn the top of that mountain. And that, not to jump to the rah, rah, rah too quickly. I hear what Michael says earlier, right? We've got to let people have their time of grief and their time of mourning and their time of, and that's natural. That's human. That's who we are. But now more than ever, new thoughters, and man, there's a lot of us in Southern California. New thoughters, it's our job to help shape the consciousness of what comes next. Towards the positive, towards the good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Collaboration, helping each other. And it's not, oh, screw you, my house is fine. It's, hey, come live in my basement while we rebuild your house together.
Yeah.
I just got this download of it might help to have a little sprinkling of the Amish consciousness of helping your brother floating around LA for the next few, from here forth.
Absolutely. Also, Michael Beckwith's church, right there, in Studio City, that area, undoubtedly his community has had probably hundreds of people affected by this. So
North Hollywood Church, I do know for a fact North Hollywood Church is open as a shelter. And they're allowing people to sleep there and stay there, and they're sheltering people at the North Hollywood Center for Spiritual Living. I know of a couple others that are not damaged, that are safe. We have not yet heard names or number of people, but we do know there are new thoughters in various congregations across the Southland that are without a home at this point because of all this. Folks, we have run way over time, which is normal when we have a guest. So we're going to get out of here for now. Let you get into your Friday morning. We have a full day of broadcasting here on the New Thought Media Network. Morning prayers are at 8:15. 8:30 is the morning sip with Rev Melissa. 9:30 Spanish language prayers. 11 o'clock, the Joy Show. Nope. Wait a minute. 11 o'clock, brand new program. Skip Jennings and his friend and a new friend out of Las Vegas, Reverend Cynthia, who Z and I met not long ago. Brand new show. I don't even have the placard loaded up properly. Happening at 11 o'clock today. And it's called the High Vibe Hour. There we go. Now I'm remembering what I'm supposed to remember. It's the High Vibe Hour with Rev Skip. That happens at 11 o'clock today. See how quick you can do things with technology. Join us for that. Skip is in the LA area. He's been affected, not directly and not lost his home, but he's going to talk about that a little bit. So we'll be there for the High Vibe Hour. The Joy Show's at 1 o'clock. Good News at 5. Fireside Chat at 6. And, of course, our evening prayers later tonight at 8:15. I'm Dr. Robert. On behalf of my co-host and our special guest, Reverend Michael Benjamin, we want to thank you for being with us. Wish you a peace and great day. And may you and yours stay safe and secure this Friday as well. Until next time. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends.